All right, I know that I've kind of gone off the theme for this podcast, which I've started February, but on the Alex Garrett Podcast Network, that sound is dire. I didn't know this. We are 9 days away from a default of our economic system. 5 days away 9 days away before, if debt ceiling negotiations fall apart, there is a default afoot. And I'll tell you, the saddest image I saw yesterday was this. Joe Biden sitting there, and Kevin McCarthy, and I'm sorry to say this about the President of the United States, but it looked like McCarthy was visiting the senior home at a very crucial moment. Biden looked and sat there doing very little of anything. Kevin McCarthy was saying, well, we're not at an agreement yet. We have disagreement. We cannot come to an agreement. And all Biden does is joke about it. Yesterday was 10, today's 9. So 10 days away from our country defaulting, our president's making jokes. Isn't that fantastic? Isn't it so sad that President Biden looked like he was being visited by a relative? Not the speaker, but by a relative that want to check in on their older relative, their elder. Parent, grandparent, whatever. It looked like that. It didn't look like a speaker-president meeting. It looked really awful. And in 2024, that's not the image we need to strive for, okay? You could blame Speaker McCarthy for holding up negotiations. You could say Biden shouldn't have been at G7 while his country's in a default mode, alert. But overall, yesterday's image of President Biden and Speaker McCarthy, Kevin McCarthy, in the Oval Office, in one of the big rooms in the Oval Office, looked pretty sad. And I was thinking to myself, what image did I want to talk about today? And that's the one. That our country is 9 days away from defaulting, and we have what looks like relatives visiting their elder in a senior center or a senior home. Because there's very little life coming out of Joe Biden, only jokes and, oh, good old Joe. But it's a tired act. It's a tired act because our country is at a tipping point. Now, you might say, what does default mean on debt? Well, it could mean no Social Security. And if we default on the debt, the interest rate on the debt would go up, and that probably would lead to a crash. According to the NPR, the interest rate on the debt that we have has gone up, would go up. I know we want to lower spending, but at this point, just raise the damn ceiling even more. Because we are facing a calamity of proportions maybe not even seen in 2008. And here we have a president joking around, laughing about things, and a speaker that says we have many disagreements. We can't come to the table. Mr. President, help us. Please. Oh, well, ha, ha, ha. And it's like, no. That's not the image America should be having to the world. Especially when they see us giving billions of dollars to Ukraine. We can't even get our own economy together. 9 days. The clock is ticking. The clock is ticking. Washington. Other consequences, according to the NPR, which, when it comes to this, I kind of... And it would affect cuts in other spending, even in education spending. At a time when student loan forgiveness is already a thing, or they're trying to make it a thing, it's in the courts. I believe still. Look, I've never been a fan of continually raising the ceiling just because we can. But this is crucial, that something get done, that they not be worlds apart just 9 days away, that we don't have the image of a speaker pleading to the President of the United States. Here's exactly what McCarthy and Biden talked about yesterday.
We do have disagreements. I think we have a 50-year average. We're having more revenue at any time coming in. But I think we both agree that we need to change the trajectory, that our debt is too large. And I think at the end of the day, we can find common ground, make our economy stronger, take care of this debt, but more importantly, get this government moving again to curb inflation, make us less dependent upon China, and make our appropriation system work when we get done, right?
I'm all for making appropriations work. Now that I'm to do it.
Mr. President.
I mean, to me, why even crack jokes in such a serious time, President Biden? That's the frustrating thing. That's the frustrating thing. But we will see. We will see. But the imagery of Biden and McCarthy side by side. McCarthy looks like he's visiting his elderly grandfather or grandfather in the senior center. I'm sorry to say it like that, but this is what it looks like. And it doesn't look good for the nation. And it doesn't look good for us on the global stage. It doesn't look good for us if our economy is on the verge and all we get are jokes from the President of the United States and even gaffes and stumbles. That's not good. You can say you're being so anti-Biden right now. No, I'm being a couple years into the Biden presidency tired. Biden years tired. It's Biden fatigue, is it not? Well, guess what? We'll be back in just a little bit on the Sports Spotlight side with Lou Terminello on Terminello's Take. But I had to get this done. I had a vent because our nation's at default and Biden's there joking with McCarthy. Come on, man. As Joe Biden would say. Hey, one last thing. My podcast, thank God, is not defaulting, but there is a dip, and my podcast apps are not liking it. Check out my Instagram to see the literal image of my stats flipping me off. It's kind of funny, but buy the dip in this listenership for the last 30 days. Raise that listenership up. Invest in time, energy, and even interact. Invest and interact with the Alex Garrett Podcast Network right now. Alex at alexnyc.com. Buy the dip. As I say in stocks, I'm saying it right now. Our listenership is low, but we're going to climb back up there. I feel it. I know it. And it's thanks to you out there listening to the Alex Garrett Podcast Network.